Yes, he's no longer a PGA pro. We call him something else now. Watch this. I just noticed that when you see Brad's little thing that on the name, he's now an analyst, and you know what? Wait till you see the reviews on his analyst work. Brad Faxon is my guest. Good evening on this Friday night on My State of Mind. I am Dan York. And don't forget, we are now on Fox Providence at midnight, in addition to our showings at 7:30 and 11:30 on MyRI TV. And as you know, on Friday nights, we kind of sit back. Usually we have a debate, somebody yelling at each other about some local issue. I'd rather take some quality time with our multiple professional winner. Everybody loves him, and now he's made a mark on national television. In fact, look at this picture. This is like very big. Oh, the whole team right there. And now we'll have him slide in. Just come on, you know the whole. I don't have to tell you how. I got it. I don't know how to. And he says to me, "I'm wearing shorts today. Is that a problem?" I said, "Well, no, it's a golfer. You're not allowed to wear shorts. All right, get off the photo. There you are." And I lied to you. We can see the shorts.
Oh gosh. I got tan legs.
It's all right.
Now.
You play golf. You can wear shorts. Sometimes I do, but no one ever sees it.
Sometimes you play golf?
Well, I play golf a lot. I show up a lot, and sometimes I play golf.
There you go.
Right? And you've certainly helped me with that. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great.
This is
busy.
Great.
We just finished 3 U.S. Opens in 4 weeks. The men's, the women's, and the seniors. It's been amazing.
I've obviously sent you some private messages, but the consensus, unsolicited, from anybody who's brought up the coverage of those events, whether they know me, that I know you or not, and I'm talking about dozens and dozens of people who love the game of golf, to a person, they have thought that your job on the television has been at a very high level, and that didn't come without a lot of hard work, I know. You're really working on it. So congratulations on that. Because it's not easy. And I'd like you to share almost some of the stuff that goes behind the scenes. Now, we'll talk some golf. We got the whole show today. So
absolutely.
It's only 22 minutes, but we can make the most of it. Listen, that's a brand new project for Fox. It's a big, big deal. And you were sweating out, I know, who to sign with for a broadcast career simultaneous with your playing career, because I know you still got the itch. But what a good decision to join the Fox team for you.
I think so. I worked for NBC in 2010 for 7 events on the PGA Tour. Then last year I did some Golf Channel work at a desk. So you're on camera, having to have a thought and compete with a couple of the other broadcasters like Brandel Chambly, who's my broadcasting idol for golf. And then when Fox stole the contract from NBC for the USGA events, so that I think the fans need to know that the USGA events don't include PGA Tour events other than the US Open. So it's the US Open, the Senior Open, the Women's Open, and then a multitude of amateur events across the country, the US Amateur, the Women's Amateur, and then a couple other smaller events. But Joe Buck said to me when we were talking about whether I should stay with Golf Channel or go to Fox, he said, look, the biggest crowd the Golf Channel will ever have watch any show might be 150,000 people. When you come to Fox and televise the U.S. Open, you'll have 15 to 20 million people watching you in 1 week. It's pretty easy to figure that out.
Make you nervous?
What made me nervous was, as a team, we weren't that experienced. Joe Buck had never done golf. Greg Norman, who's one of the most well-known golfers in the world, hasn't really done broadcasting. We had Corey Pavin, our foot soldier on the ground, who had won a U.S. Open but had never done broadcasting. I had 1 year's experience in a tower. Steve Flesh, maybe a couple years. Scott McCarron, a couple years. And then we had a few other people doing the digital feed. So we had no experience. So yes, I think we were all nervous. Plus, when you're a producer, our producer Mark Loomis had done British Opens before, but he hadn't worked in 3 years. And all the people behind the scenes in the trucks, and you know what that's like. They hadn't done any of the new graphics, the audio, all the new cameras that we had, and Chambers Bay. Joe Buck's made a great point. He said, look, I've never seen a...
Where the U.S. Open was.
Chambers Bay in Washington, right. He said it looked like 4 Super Bowls at once. It was so big with the amount of trucks that we had there to produce the golf, and we had 45 miles of television cable.
He also said to you, you mentioned to me last week when we were chatting, you said that Joe Buck, who, as you know, is the premier play-by-play guy for Fox, period, All-Star game this week, all the NFL football premier games. that he was saying that it was a big test for him, right? Because the football is, 3 hours. The golf, I mean, Fox put an imprint on this thing. There was 8 and 10 hour broadcasts.
We had a couple 11-hour days early in the week because we opened on Fox Sports 1, then we went to Fox, and we went back to Fox Sports 1, then we did shows pre and post game. And he said in the first week we did, was it the first week? The first 2 weeks we did the 2 opens, 60 hours of live coverage. And he said his whole NFL season for Fox, he doesn't do 60 hours.
Well, look, I don't mean to get into the comparison game, and you're much too a pro and modest to get into it either. But you should know that most folks thought that you stood out impressively. It's one thing to know the game; it's another thing to be able to translate the game, right? And so, the broadcast thing doesn't come as easily as a lot of people think it does. It's a whole different ball of wax. Yes,
it is. And I ask other broadcasters questions all the time to try and improve and be better, because believe it or not, you don't get a lot of feedback from your bosses. They're so busy trying to figure out their own stuff. It's not like they're going, hey, great job, you did this, but you could speak slowly, or you could stop having these run-ons, or you could make a point quicker. You don't hear that very often. You can watch your tape yourself. But I call my friends that I think know stuff, and I'm glad that you're saying what you did. That makes me feel good.
Yeah, well, you and I, at least when your first NBC thing, we chatted a lot about how it went.
Exactly.
It's and the great thing about your approach is that you haven't taken a big-time attitude about what is a clearly big-time project.
It is.
And that's a credit to you. And I think everybody who knows you knows that that's kind of the way you carry yourself. It's, the big-timeness of the PGA, your wins, all of that speak for itself. You don't have to flaunt it. You don't have to walk it, which is a credit to you. It's always been. You had fun, though?
I did have fun. And, I can trace it back to, my dad was a golfer, and he was a social golfer, too. He loved to go play and then sit around and have a beer and talk about the round. And I was a kid caddying for him when I was 12, 13, in those formative years. And he would have these great guys, and they'd tell great golf stories. I'd listen to everything. And then when they wanted to have lunch and have a beer, I'd go play 9 holes. I'd come back, and they were still talking about that day on the golf course and that shot somebody hit, and they'd use this great jargon. And I just kind of picked up on that. And I love that about the game, that people could get so passionate about this sport. And what could be better than being outside and being with your friends and having fun playing a game you love?
Is there any sport, indoor game in America today that has that connection between what you watch on television or what you see as an attendee at a professional event and your own behavior? I mean, right?
No.
Right. Football. Most people who go to the games, they're done. You exit at grammar school, high school, college. You exit as a fan. In golf, most people who love it as much as they do, if they're physically capable, they don't exit, and so you're constantly in it as a fan. Right. I don't know whether so you've got to be able to reflect on it and draw that ground.
And there's the equalizer for golf is the handicap system, where I can go play. And yesterday I did a corporate outing for Fidelity, which I've done for 15 years. And I have all these guys on the course. They're all different levels. Some are good, some are terrible, some are beginners. But we can all go play the same hole, and I can compete against that hole and try and make a par or a birdie, and they can try and make their 6s or 7s. And we can all be happy. But you can't go play football or baseball with a professional football player or baseball player, can you?
No, you can't. That's what makes it special. When we come back, we'll talk about the U.S. Open, which was very controversial, and a whole bunch of other stuff. What do we got there? That's the CBS, right? Is that some video from the CBS? Is that what it is, yeah? Oh, it's a senior champ. Oh, that's you at the senior championship. My goodness. What year is
Another
that?
Bad break.
Was that this year?
It lipped
No,
out. That might have been.
What were you wearing? Do you remember?
I don't know. It was a sweater. That would be cold.
Everyone wants to know about how you're playing. So let's get that done.
Well, that'll be a short subject. Not well and not often. I've lost a lot of the chances to play because of the Fox gig, which I knew would happen, especially this first year, because we've had a lot of extra events that we've had to do for Fox and for the USGA that have made me skip events on the Champions Tour. But I am getting to go play the Senior British Open in Sunningdale next week, so I'm very excited about that.
Well, who was on last night okay, you're seeing this on Friday. Jess loves this camera. I'm always off this camera. You're seeing this on Friday, but we taped this on Wednesday. However, on Tuesday, I taped a segment with Ed Kirby that actually aired last night on Thursday, but for us, it's tomorrow night.
Who
Did you follow
followed that? Because I didn't.
But Eddie is going to qualify.
Yes, he's going over
He's
there.
going
I saw
over
his brother
there.
yesterday.
And I've never seen a guy so confident about his opportunity to qualify and get in.
I love him.
And he says to me, off the air, not off the record, but off the air, because we were talking about my game. You know how we always do that. And he said, I said, how do you get your mindset ready to? He says, look, you got a goal, just write it down. And he said, you know what? You know who taught me that? He said, Brad Faxon taught me that. I said, back in the day when we were in college, I was about 3 years ago, and you qualified for the U.S. Open. He went to you and said, how do I? And you said, how did you do that? He said, and you said to him, you know what you said to him?
It's only got to write down.
You got to write it down. So there you go. You and Kirby.
We went to
he's
college
writing it
together a
down.
million years ago, but he's just got the teaching job down at Point Judith.
Yes, and he's thrilled with that.
Fun guy. He played and qualified this year to play in the senior PGA. Made the cut there.
Played with Faldo.
Played
in
with
the
Faldo.
last round. You know.
Faldo probably didn't know what to do with himself with Eddie.
No, he didn't. He actually didn't, because he was telling me that people were yelling, Nick, Faldo, Faldo. And Kirby says, after 6 or 7 holes, I was so tired of hearing it, he turned to the fans and said, how about Kirby?
Only Eddie.
Well, you know what? It was relaxing for him.
Yes.
So anyway, so you're playing how?
I'm playing okay. If you at the Senior Players Championship at Belmont, I shot 74, 64, 78, 69. So I'm shooting some good scores and some bad scores. I would blame it on inconsistency and not being able to play a regular schedule right now.
Wasn't that when you were injured? That was your challenge. You'd pop up, you'd go low, and then you wouldn't.
Yep.
And so now you're doing the same thing, but for different reasons.
Yeah, probably because I haven't been able to play on a consistent or regular basis.
What causes someone to go shoot 67 one day and 77 the next?
I think there's a lot of things. The day I shot the 64 at Senior Players, I hit it all over the place and made a monstrous amount of putts. And I played with Billy Andrade that day, and he was laughing so hard I told him to shut up. I said, it's and then the next day I kind of didn't get away with some of the bad shots and made a couple double bogeys. But everybody that's played this game, and you have days where you feel absolutely comfortable with everything that you're doing, and you can see a shot before you hit it, and it goes where you want it to do, or when you hit a bad one, it takes a good bounce. And I just need to play a little bit more. And
still got it? You still got it?
I still got it. I still want to play, yeah.
The broadcasting now, after a really, really successful Fox experience where you've got all the machinations of national television and so well accepted, you're losing the playing thing a little bit?
I think I've forgotten about playing. Like when I'm doing the broadcast, I'm not thinking about going to play well, because it's so much time, and then when you get back from your hotel, you eat and you have to study a little bit about what you're going to say the next day. But it's made me realize that when I play, I have to be ready to play. So that's the important thing. I can't just go out there and take it for granted that every week I'm going to play great. I got to make the weeks I play count. And that's if you look at Jack and Tiger over years, they didn't play as much as the rest of the guys. They just made the weeks they played.
They prepared more?
Be prepared. I think they prepared to play the weeks they played, and they were better at it than everybody else.
Are you prepared to go to?
I am very excited. It's always my favorite place to play, playing over in the UK. A course called Sunningdale, which is what everybody says is one of the best courses in London or just outside of London. I've never played there, but can't wait.
And you're ready?
I'm definitely ready.
All right. He's ready. Tell me about the U.S. Open. Everyone's complaining about the conditions and the greens. They did look ugly on television.
They were terrible.
There's nothing that Fox could do to pretty that up. I mean, it was brown.
It was sad because the USGA was disappointed in what happened in their preparation. They fired the superintendent that was maintaining the grounds about a year before the event. And I think they could have come out and really helped the players out by saying, you know what, we don't have the conditions we think are acceptable. We apologize to you. We just want you to accept what we have and play for our national championship, and we'll take the blame. Because the players, a lot of them, You heard Poulter's comments, Horschel's comments afterwards. They all get so upset at the conditions, and they were as bad as any greens I've ever seen in my life. And that being said, everybody had to putt on those, but they were an equalizer. If you were a great putter, you lost a big advantage there. Because they were so bad. It was the highest amount of 3 putts in the history of the game, of the recorded game, where you had statistics. It was the least amount of putts ever made under 8 feet in any championship, the least amount of birdie conversion they've ever had. I mean, all the stats that track putting, it was really bad numbers.
So if you were a terrific putter, your edge was eliminated?
Yes. So typically on the PGA Tour, the numbers would show from 8 feet, that's when the tour player is 50-50 from 8 feet. And the better players from 8 feet would be well above that. Sometimes they'd be 60-65% during a week, especially the weeks that they win. Nobody was even close that week. And you know, if you're one of those players that relies on having finesse and being able to make those putts, you know, luck, good and bad luck, takes over.
And look what happened to Dustin Johnson at the end.
Absolutely, that was tragic. And you know, he's a resilient guy. He's bounced back from things similar to this in the past, but when you watched his wife Paulina, their baby, Wayne Gretzky, Janet Jones, crushing.
All ready to celebrate.
And did you see, they just paired Dustin with Jordan Spieth again this week for the British Open.
Really?
They're playing together.
I can't be completely accurate with my memory on this, but I didn't sense that the Fox broadcast team was as objective on the broadcast as you are being here. Am I correct? Is there
I think
we
were
relationship?
towing a line there a little bit.
There's a new contract, the blah, 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 right?
You know, and again, I think, and I had the conversation with Mike Davis, who's the executive director, afterwards. I said, you know, Mike, we have to broadcast objectively. I mean, our job is to tell the viewer what's going on. And I said, we can't keep saying these greens are fine and have players keep missing putts and making fun of the greens. I said, it's just not the way it should be done. And he was, you know, he knew that was right. But I think they've never had conditions like that before that were that bad.
Is this something that the Fox broadcast team, you know, you all have production meetings, you go, all right, guys, let's talk about this, about tone in terms of how we're going to offer critical analysis, or is everybody freelancing?
It was a little bit of both. You're allowed to freelance, I would say, to a point. You can make your point, but you don't overdo it in that situation.
The nature of golf broadcasts is a very interesting thing amongst all the networks. There's a customer relationship between the networks and the tours and the USGA. So people don't really understand that.
Yes. You know, there's a
it's not pure journalism. There's a lot of great analysis that goes on in context, but there's a customer relationship.
Right, and you know, the U.S. Open is the national championship for America. We are supposed to talk about the history of the game, the history of this U.S. Open, the importance of it, the honor of it, the respect that players have for it, but also there's a hate for it. There's a love-hate between the PGA Tour player and the USGA. They're the governing body. They make the laws and the rules. Every player doesn't like their lose. You know, they're a staid sort of group, you know, blue blazer, dandruff, kind of bow tie sort of crowd that not everybody thinks is the best organization. But I have tremendous respect for so many people there, and I love the game of golf, and they're trying to promote the game of golf in the end, aren't they?
Yes. All right. A couple more things, including Tiger. You always got to ask Brad about Tiger. Always teaching, always teaching. Now, this is a putting stroke. Let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you a little story out of school. I got a couple-hour lesson from this guy known as one of the best putters in the history of the game one day. And I tell people all about it all the time because I actually am a pretty good putter. And it's because, but the story was, Brad and I were having a little meeting one day over a putting green, and he says to me, "Hey, Danny, how's your putting?" I said, "Not too good." He goes, "Good, because that's the worst putting stroke I've ever seen in my life." Remember that morning?
No, I never said that to you.
Yes, you did.
I'm lying. I never said
And
that.
you did. And you started dropping balls from your eyes to get me over the ball, and then you changed my grip. And then you said something, and this is for everybody out there, 2/3, 1/3. 2/3, 1/3. Do you remember that? I hope you do, because that's what you've done.
I could see that meaning a couple things.
2/3?
Yes.
1/3.
Yes.
In fact, I was playing with a guy
You
this
were the
weekend
opposite.
who was,
Yes.
and I said, listen, not for nothing, you know, but there's a guy you may know who told me one day, 2/3, 1/3, and that really helped me. You're a good teacher. You're a good teacher.
That part of the game I think I can teach.
Well, people would think they'd give their left you-know-what to be able to spend some time with you on that. And I'll forever be grateful about that. And, you know, it's not the part of the game that really I suffer with. But this is not about me. It's about you. Talk to me about, we talk about this from time to time, but talk to me about what you think the biggest mistake players are making who are trying to make their game better.
The average golfer or the tour player?
The average golfer first.
Well, you know, the average guy that's going out to play once a week, is that the average guy?
I guess.
A couple times a week?
Times.
You know, they see PGA Tour players and think, they always remember their best shot and think they can hit every club like that every time. And I can tell you from my experience playing in the Pro-Ams with these guys every week on the Champions Tour, 99% of the guys come up short 99% of the time. You know, they don't hit it on the button. They don't make
So take
solid.
an extra club. Is that the moral of the story?
Yeah, take an extra club. I think guys, they don't spend money trying to get better by getting a lesson or two. They just
Find new
wing it.
toys.
Yeah, buy new toys.
Get lessons and take an extra club. What's Tiger doing, man? He doesn't look happy.
You know, he doesn't even look comfortable walking down a fairway. Something with his body doesn't look good. It's not just his body language, but I don't know if it's, you know, he feels like he keeps saying, I have to be stronger. And this is the strongest golfer that's ever played the game. He doesn't need to be stronger. I think he needs to be quick and flexible and all those things we want to be. But, you know, I think he's gotten where we all get a little bit too mechanical. You're thinking about your swing all the time. When he first started, it was easy. He just saw a shot and painted a picture, and he's not painting a picture very well.
But, you know, Kirby and I were talking about it last night. Attitude's got to have a lot to do with it. He looks like he doesn't want to be there.
Well, I think what's funny is, you know, we saw him play forever without ever making a mistake on the golf course. As a matter of fact, the more pressure there was, the better he got. And when you go out and hit balls on the driving range and everything's good and nobody's rushing, you're hitting these shots down the middle of the range, and you get out on the course, all of a sudden there's a creek or some out-of-bounds stakes, they go sideways. That's what's happening to Tiger. For the first time in his life, it's becoming hard on the golf course for him.
Who's going to win the British? We're airing this after the cut, so you know.
I'm going to pick Louis Oosthuizen. Louis Oosthuizen's a South African that finished one shot out of that playoff, or with Dustin Johnson, not out of the playoff, but Jordan Spieth. He played a great 3 last rounds. He played with Tiger in the first round of the U.S. Open, and he's playing with him again tomorrow and Friday. So he's my pick just because he's won the British Open. He's played well at St. Andrews.
I'll put that in the pool. Who's going to win the Senior British?
Senior British, I'm going to be in contention. That's all I'm going to tell you. I'm not going over there to lay up.
Excellent. Congratulations on everything.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Yes, all right. We'll
Love
be
the
right
show.
back. One more thing. Well, it was a great week. We had a chance to talk to the head coach of the URI women's basketball team, Eddie Kirby, who's going over the pond to play golf, and of course Brad. Kind of speaks for itself. But we'll get back to some other things next week. But we're going to talk to some kids who've done some really great projects from the high school level on Monday. So I hope you'll be around for that. Remember, 3 chances now to watch this show. Not only are we on MyRI TV, 7:30 and 11:30, as we have for almost the last 2 years, we're now on Fox Providence at midnight. And thanks for watching. Looks like a lot of you are. See you on the radio, too, on Monday at noon on WPRL. Have a great weekend.